Alright, bobber. What does that mean? Well, historically, yan ang mga remnants ng mga war bikes from the World Wars. Dami yan. Ang daming motorsiklo nung mga panahon na yon. At ang mga taong nagmay-ari ng motorsiklo na nakasurvive sa gera ay naging into customization, and of course, human nature, our great-grand folks were finding a way to go much faster. And what is the easiest way to go faster with a motorcycle that you already have in your garage? Well, it is taking off anything that is not necessary. Unnecessary na timbang, even at the expense of making the bike ride exclusively solo, dahil tinatanggal pati ang mga backseat and the rear part of the frame. Fast forward to today, ang bobber ay isa ng genre sa sarili niya. This is not quite a cruiser or a touring bike dahil maliit ang mga gas tank nito at ang riding position usually ay medyo nakakangawit. We will talk more about those things later. For now, let us talk about this Triumph Bobber 1200 that we got from Triumph Motorcycle Philippines, whom I'd like to congratulate because of the praises from their UK headquarters because of the excellent performance in sales, all in just under 2 years of operating here in our country. They recently held this demo day for their prospective customers, and lucky for us, we have been invited to the event and I saw how their people are to everyone. Nakakatuwa dahil maraming masaya sa mga na-test nila na Triumph motorcycles, including me, dahil naiuwi ko itong bobber na ito right after the event. Of course, that is for us to review, and what a bike it is. I will be honest here though. At first glance, I had 3 things in mind when I first saw this bike on the showroom a few months back. Number 1, ang gwapo ng bike na ito, hands down. Number 2 is when I saw the fat tires. I made this assumption that this will handle like a boat, and lastly, I was thinking, what is the point of having an exclusively single-seat bike that is priced at 1,015,000? Well, lahat yan ay nasagot nang nagamit ko ito ng matagalan. And the answer is not quite what I expected. Pero bago yan, ilalatag ko muna ang mga specs ng motorsiklo na ito. Meron itong liquid-cooled na 1200cc engine na katulad nung nasa Scrambler 1200XC na na-review natin. It has this cleverly designed EFI na mukhang naka-carb. Non-adjustable suspension for both the front and the rear, and that rear has the floating solo seat. 130 section front tire and 150 section rear tire, which I know, those are fat tires. Let's talk more about that later. Ang overall build ng bike na ito ay masasabi natin na compact. Dahil hindi naman malapad ang handlebar nito, hindi ito bulky at hindi rin matangkad. As a matter of fact, with the stock bar and mirror setup, it still rides lower than the side mirrors of most cars out there. Ang seat height nito ay very Pinoy friendly din at only 690mm. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin ang mga bagay-bagay na makikita at makakalikot natin dito sa motorsiklo na ito. So, the Triumph Bobber 1200. Kita nyo naman, ang pogi, right? Let's just have a good look dito sa motorsiklong to sa harap. And I would like to apologize kung medyo putikan yung motor natin kasi I got dumped on. Umulan. I'll show you the mud. Ayan ang inabot na putik ng motorsiklong to. But you know what? I don't mind getting rained on with this bike kasi ang sarap gamitin, okay? And that's the front, by the way, and this is the rear. If you ask me, anong pinaka main showpiece ng motorsiklong to? Well, let me tell you what, it's the rear. Bakit? Single seat, obviously, walang angkas-angkas pagka itong motor mo. So you'll have fun all by yourself, and I have no problem doing that kung ito ba naman ang motor ko. And this is the 1200 engine, okay? Katulad yan dun sa Scrambler XC na nireview natin, and I believe pati sa XE and any other parallel twin na 1200 ng Triumph. So ayan yun. The fork, I'm not sure about the travel of this fork, pero hindi naman siya ganun kahaba, knowing that this is a street bike, hindi siya off-road bike. And seeing from its ground clearance, there's not really much, but it's sufficient for your trips on road. And that is the rear suspension unit, well hidden under the seat, underneath your solo seat. Sleek, diba? I don't believe that these suspension units are adjustable. If they are, please let me know in the comment section. I'd be happy to know kung talaga bang hindi adjustable to. And in keeping with the simplicity of the build of this bobber, ayan ang cockpit. There's not really much info para mapaglaruan mo or macycle mo yung features, which by the way, buksan natin. Itong susian ng motorsiklong to. Still in keeping sa mga luma na bobber. So that's the clock. Pag pinindot ko, boom, RPM, digital. Digital siyang nagbibilang ng kanyang RPM, because what you have here is only the analog dial. If we press this again, mapupunta ka naman sa odometer, trip 1, trip 2, yan yung trip counter mo. Pero basically yan lang yung makikita mo dito sa cluster mo, sa gauge cluster. Konting digital, but everything is analog, everything is well built actually. Para sa ganitong bike, I wouldn't want any other high-tech stuff. Yung mga TFT, parang out of place yun dito. Ito ang indicator kung naka-turn signal ka na ba, kung naka-neutral ka, and if your light is on, right there. May gas gauge naman, unlike any other retro bikes na walang gauge ng gasolina. Ride height, well, it's not even a question. Mababa to, bobber to eh. And also the seat height, it's only 690mm from the ground to the seat. So, very very Pinoy friendly. In fact, let me show you what it looks like kapag kainupuan ng katulad ko na 6 feet ang height. Here you go. 6 feet tall rider height. Ganito ang motorsiklo na to kapag sinakyan ko. As you can see, flat foot, parehong paa, may bend pa nga actually. Ganito naman ang riding position with my feet on the foot peg. So medyo reaching forward, yeah. Pati ang paa medyo forward control but not extreme. So I find this comfortable. I mean, ganyan yan pagka in-stand nyo, hindi naman ganun kabigat. And as a byproduct ng mababa na motor, ng mababa na ground clearance at mababang upuan, the center of gravity, the weight of the bike, everything is right here. Mababa yung center of gravity. And for me, kung baguhan ka nagmomotor, bumili ka nito, it's not too intimidating because you're not really carrying the weight up high. Kasi medyo chore yun pagka mabigat sa tuktok ng motor. So, 1,015,000 price tag. How do you justify that? Well, for me, bibili ka ng ganito kung medyo gusto mo ng mapapagkalibangan, ng, you know, ng way to de-stress yourself. Kasi ang sarap i-ride nito. Alam nyo, pagka nira-ride ko to, I feel like I am an action star. Nakakatawa, medyo shallow yun, pero yun yung pakiramdam pagka nira-ride ko tong motor na to. Eh, ang sarap. Ako, hindi ako manghihinayang pakawalan yung 1,015,000 is money is not an object. At isa pa, kaya hindi ako manghinayang magpakawala ng ganung pera if money is not an object. Well, take a look at the thing. Quality is just top notch, right? Walang cheap parts, lahat ng touch points mo, handlebar, upuan, foot pegs, everything. Everything that your eyes can lay upon, well, lahat quality. And if your kind of riding is something na mga medium range lang naman, Bulacan or Laguna and back to Manila, hindi ka naman nag-i-Ilocos on a weekly basis, hindi ka naman nag-Mindanao, Visayas, this bike is perfect for you. The 12-liter capacity on the tank is sufficient. Matipid naman yung motor niya dahil sa high torque output. So it's a perfect bike kung hindi ka naman long range rider. And as I've mentioned, as a tool for making you feel good, well, 10 out of 10 itong motorsiklong to.
At sa tingin ko, yan naman ang dahilan kaya tayo nagmomotor. To disconnect temporarily on our day-to-day hustle and bustle. Kapag nagra-ride kasi tayo, we can't think of anything else but the clutch, throttle, and the road ahead. Or else, madidisgrasya ka. Wala nang masasarap pa sa pakiramdam na ganyan na tiilang motorsiklo lang ang katulad nito na makakapag-translate ng good looks niya into the rider's feeling. Tulad ng nasabi ko, therapeutic mag-ride. Lalo na kung ganito na solo lang talaga. With its engine's torquey nature, you are not being put on a situation where it will always be noisy because of high revs. Sa bike nga na ito, parang ayoko nang humigit sa 90 to 100 kilometers per hour kahit sobrang capable pa yung bike to go above those speeds. Kasi kapag nasa 6th gear ka na on those speeds, the engine is just so chill as it trundles along. Napakasarap sa chill ride and you have a lot of power on the bag for overtaking. That also is the probable reason why this bike is so fuel efficient for a 1200 engine. No need to rev the engine higher because the torque is very accessible at the low to middle part of the rev range. And despite its small 12-liter tank, you can go farther. I didn't fill up as frequent as I was expecting to be. Kasi nga, laging low rev at halos idle rev lang ang maririnig mo kapag ka nasa 6th gear ka na. I would also like to mention that this bike has a round headlight. Yeah? Kitang-kita naman. Pero yan ay katulad din nung nandun sa Scrambler XC na na-test natin. Napakaliwanag niyan sa gabi and when it's turned on sa mga madidilim talaga na daan, it's as if meron ka agad aux light kahit wala naman. This can give any rider the confidence to ride safely at night times. And I can imagine even on inclement weather. Triumph Motorcycles is consistent in producing these super bright round headlights and these are the best in the business as far as what I've seen versus anything else out there. Kudos talaga dyan dahil I am pro round headlights. So, to wrap things up, let's have a rundown on the pros and cons of this bike. Let's start with the cons since isa lang naman ang nakikita kong standout. Well, as you can see, single-seater siya. Wala kang mayaangkas dito at kung marami kang chicks na inaangkas sa mga ride mo, hindi para sa'yo to, Chong. Sorry. But for the cruiser guys who would also like the refinement and the timeless look of Triumph Motorcycles but always rides with an OBR, don't worry folks because there is also the Speedmaster on their lineup and that is the bike for you. We can perhaps add the small fuel tank pero naiisip ko yung fuel efficiency naman ng 1200cc engine nito because of the 6-speed transmission and high torque output, well, nakocompensate na yung 12 liters of fuel na kasya dito. Malayo na rin ang mararating mo sa totoo lang. And now on the pros. Folks, I am a classic bike kind of guy and I really like the looks of this bobber. Yan ang unang nag-push sa akin kaya tinanong ko si Yao from Triumph Motorcycle Philippines kung pwede ko bang review ang bike na ito. It simply looks like a super bespoke, modern classic with an industrial kind of vibe because of the textured metal used on the pipes and the fins on the engine block. And many more, sa totoo lang. Lahat nasa detalye mga chong. Next on the pros, which some people would think otherwise, is the riding position. Some says na nakakangawit ito, pero for me and my 6-foot frame, na-appreciate ko yung medyo foot forward and leaning forward position. Maybe because I have long limbs and I can reach things easier? I don't know. Basta na-appreciate ko yung ergonomics nito because I feel like an action star operating this bike. Nakapagtagaytay naman ako without any body aches, especially para sa akin na madalas sakitan ng likod. I also appreciate the simplicity of the build. I don't mind not having the most high-tech TFT screen on a bike like this and I appreciate a classic, precise-looking analog gauge and this bike is bang on in terms of those basic stuff. Bagay na bagay. Instead of going high-tech, Triumph just went for a stellar build quality and material choice. Ito pa, the seat height. This is a real plus for us Filipinos as a lot of us are not very tall. Napakababa ng upuan nito at madaling abutin ang ground and that just gives anyone who will ride this bike the confidence to go out for a ride. And lastly, the refinement which I think, having tried 3 of Triumph's current lineup, it is one of their edge over any other brands out there. I know that refinement is quite vague, pero ramdam mo talaga pag sakay mo sa mga Triumph bikes eh. The vibration coming out of the engine is next to none, the heat coming out of the engine and transmission is also next to none, except na lang siguro kapag matraffic. Mararamdaman mo rin yung init kapag bukas ng aux fan, but it's totally manageable and these are the things that would make the ride comfortable. These my friends are constant to Triumph Motorcycles and I like this brand for that consistency in refinement. So, if you're interested with this bike or any other bike on Triumph's lineup, feel free to visit them on their Ortigas showroom or you can call this number for your inquiries. I'm sure you will be able to get a good deal for your next bike purchase. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I promise, marami pa tayong car and motorcycle contents coming up. Huwag din kayong mahihiyang mag-comment. Tell me what you think of this bike or maybe if you have a request kung anong next natin na i-review, pag-usapan natin yan mga chong. This has been your Garage King PH. You ride safe out there. Ciao.